I've observed hundreds of coaching sessions, both my own and those I've watched in training, and you'd be surprised how many of them end awkwardly. The coach glances at the clock, says something like, "Looks like we're out of time," and suddenly it's over. The client is still processing. Maybe they had one more thing they wanted to say, but the session just stops. That's not partnering to close a session. That's just stopping, and it matters more than you might think. So here's the thing about abrupt ending. When you simply announce that time is up, you're not honoring the work you've just done together. You're treating the clock as more important than the human connection you've built throughout the session. And your client feels that. They feel like the conversation was interrupted rather than completed. Like there's unfinished business hanging in the air. Think about it this way. Your client just spent the session being vulnerable, digging into challenges, maybe even experiencing some real breakthroughs. And then suddenly, time's up, bye. That sense of incompleteness doesn't just affect this session. It carries into the next one. Clean endings create space for clean beginnings. Messy endings create baggage. ICF puts it simply in Marker 8.09. Partners with the client to close the session. Notice that word partners, not announces, not declares, not informs, partners. Closing isn't just clock management. It's completing the work together with intention. The way you end reflects the partnership you've created from the very beginning. If you spent the whole session collaborating, listening deeply, asking powerful questions, letting them lead, don't suddenly flip to unilateral decision-making at the end. The closing belongs to both of you. It's about collaboration and honoring the relationship you've built throughout that session. So what does honoring the process actually look like in practice? I like to do some of the wrap up of my coaching sessions as a reflection of the progress I've seen the client make throughout the session, where they were when we started, where they've arrived through their own work. This isn't about the coach summarizing. Remember, we talked about how they need to name their own learning. But you can acknowledge the journey. You can highlight the insights they've discovered, the shifts they've made, the commitments they've created. You're building a sense of wholeness and closure rather than interruption or abrupt ending. That's what honoring the process looks like. It creates completion rather than interruption. Now, let me be direct about something coaches get wrong here. You don't want to close by saying, "Thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate it." Or, "Thanks for letting me coach you today." Or, "Thanks for giving me the opportunity to coach." Here's why. The client's not there to do you a favor. They have hired you to work with them. Thanking them for allowing you to coach them, it doesn't really fit the partnership you've established. It implies you're grateful for their charity when actually you're doing a job together. It undermines the professional partnership. Instead, tell them about the wonderful work that they've done. Focus on their progress, their insights, their courage, not your gratitude for being there. Here's what works instead. Reflect on the ground they've covered, the insights they discovered, the shifts they made throughout the session. Name where they were when the session began and where they've arrived through their own effort. Something like, "You've covered a lot of ground today. You came in stuck on this decision and you're leaving with real clarity about what matters most to you." Then share authentically that you're excited to meet with them next time, that you're looking forward to continuing the work together. You're not thanking them for letting you coach. You're acknowledging their great work and expressing genuine interest in what comes next. That's what creates space for a fresh, energized beginning when you meet again. So here's what I want you to remember. Clean endings create space for clean beginnings. The close should honor the process and the partnership, not just in the conversation. And that's okay if this feels unfamiliar at first. Most of us weren't taught how to close sessions well. It takes practice. Coming up next, I'm going to share the simplest, cleanest way to close a coaching session. 7 words that will transform how you end every session you have. A practical framework for creating meaningful closure every time. Let's get into it.